Are your vehicles emitting oxygen? That was the Supreme Court's withering comment to car manufacturers, including Toyota and Mercedes, who want a ban on their larger diesel cars in Delhi to be revoked. The government was also pulled up today, with the judges asking why the government is using diesel vehicles that are older than 5 years. The top court also wants the government to respond on how soon it can enforce the stringent Bharat Stage 6 anti-polluting norms.
The Chief Justice of India following the odd-even ban and carpooling it to work. At the Supreme Court, he said, anyone who goes for diesel vehicles must know he's buying a polluting vehicle, and those buying these vehicles must pay like the polluter pays. Diesel exhausts have been identified as a carcinogen by the World Health Organization. The court ticked off major diesel car makers, Mercedes, Toyota and Mahindra, who wanted the ban on 2000cc plus diesel engines lifted. The court said, you're saying diesel vehicles pollute less, so are your vehicles emitting oxygen? But in what could have far-reaching implications, the court asked the government whether it could implement Bharat Stage 6, that is cleaner engines and fuels, by 2019 rather than a year later.
The BS6 fuel, even though the government said it's 2020, government says why don't you make it a year ahead, that's 2019. What is government's view on that?
The government is looking into it, but at the same time you have to have the logistics into place.
The court has also stopped non-Delhi bound trucks and buses from entering the capital at 4 more places. The Supreme Court also told the government to stop using diesel cars older than 10 years and asked the Delhi Metro to increase frequency during the odd-even ban.
I do not think you can get a better, a more sensitive Supreme Court, which has clearly heard all of us to say, my Lord, without the right to breathe, there is no fundamental right to live.
The top court is exploring all possibilities to control the air pollution in Delhi, and even suggested the Delhi Metro to run a premium service for the benefit of the high-end car owners who are affected by the odd-even car scheme in Delhi. The top court on the 20th of this month will also decide the fate of the low-end diesel car owners. In New Delhi, Arunachalam Vaidyanathan, NDTV.
Well, joining us to discuss the impact of this order by the Supreme Court, we have with us in the studio Anumitra Roy Chaudhary from the Centre for Science and Environment, Adarsh Shastri, the MLA from the Aam Aadmi Party, Sambit Patra, of course, staying on with us on this discussion. We have also with us Pinaki Mishra, who is a lawyer representing some car manufacturers in this case, and we have Abdul Majid, who's a partner with Price Waterhouse and an auto expert in India as well. Pinaki Mishra, I want to ask you your views on today's order. The court has come down pretty scathingly on even the government for using cars that are older than 5 years, diesel vehicles older than 5 years.
Well, Maya, the Supreme Court is right that diesel vehicles don't emit oxygen. But then, neither do CNG cars nor do petrol cars. There are no cars that emit oxygen in that sense. So, but the order was on expected lines, because I think the court has made a point of coming down very heavily on the government, essentially to show that, look, you have to get your act together. BS6, which is at par with Euro 6, ought to have been the order of the day yesterday or the day before yesterday. Instead, we were earlier looking at timelines of 2023, then came down to 2020. So, I mean, we're a nuclear power. We want to sit on the nuclear high table. We want a place at the United Nations Security Council. There is no reason why our petroleum companies, which are a monopoly incidentally, completely controlled by the government, why they shouldn't be able to manufacture BS6 standard diesel. And if that happens, the car manufacturers obviously will fall in line and manufacture the same engines. So, and these engines are applying all over the world without any problems in all over Europe, West Europe.
If I can just ask you to also clarify
without any problems.
Yeah, if I can just ask you to clarify, because you're representing car dealers. That's one part of the petition that's taking place right now. There's also car manufacturers who are saying, why target only us? There are all kinds of vehicles on the road that are causing more pollution than just diesel vehicles. Are the two suits completely separate as far as the court is concerned?
No, this is, you see, these proceedings are proceeding in two different fora.
Yeah.
One is in the National Green Tribunal,
Yeah.
where some of the car dealers had gone because there was an injunction passed by the National Green Tribunal. And the Supreme Court was also conducting parallel proceedings,
Yeah.
Where a number of people were being heard. Now, what the Green Tribunal has done is, it has now asked the Supreme Court to take a view on whether the Green Tribunal should at all be concerned with this matter, if the Supreme Court is going to take a holistic as it was seized of the matter. We don't know yet. I don't think the Supreme Court today has passed any order in that regard. But that's the nature of things. I mean, there are two different fora, but both are really coalescing in the same direction.
Okay.
Both are coming down very heavily on polluters. And the problem is the quality of diesel that is available in India. Unfortunately, that is the basic issue.
That's
First,
the basic.
BS4 is outdated. It should be BS5. That's now even out of the window. It should be BS6. But more importantly, what about the adulteration that takes place in diesel? And that, with kerosene, etc., and that's what makes it absolutely toxic.
Okay, I'm
And
going to
that's the
ask
biggest
Adarsh
problem.
Shastri to come in on
Which
that.
means our
because-
pollution
Okay,
certificates that we
right.
obtain.
I'm going to ask Mr. Shastri to come in on that because, we can take the question to Sambit Patra as well, which is the centre's involvement in things like this. But as a Delhi government initiative to curb pollution, this idea that there is adulterated diesel, there's low grade diesel coming into the markets. What is the Delhi government's plan on that?
Well, we have zero tolerance for that, and that is what we have put out a plan in action, and where we have decided that wherever we get complaints of adulteration in diesel, we will take the strictest action possible under the law. As far as the Delhi government is concerned, whether it is cancelling VAT registration, whether it is imposing heavy penalties, we will do that positively. And apart from that, I would like to add that there's been a landmark judgment today, and sometimes you have to force change onto the people and onto the country, and I think that is where we have been able to sort of do that with a disruptive change, which we all now know is working. And I think complete compliments to the Supreme Court for having come down on something which should have happened much earlier.
Okay, Abdul Majid, tell us, is it, given the fact that there are so many other contributors to pollution in not just Delhi but all around the country, is it unfair to target only diesel vehicles?
No, I think essentially diesel, diesel vehicle, they emit more particulate matters. And also NOx, I think, is very high compared to gasoline. So that's all over the world. I think diesel is coming under a lot of criticism. I think the real point in India is, the way we have gone about implementing the emission standards.
Okay.
If you look at Delhi, I think many BS1, BS2, BS3 vehicles are flying. I think there's no point having the staggered implementation. Otherwise, people will look for regulatory arbitrage. They'll buy the vehicle in some other place and register and bring it to Delhi.
Okay.
I think more important now is we need to really move for a country as a whole on one particular, from 1 year. Basically, let's say 2019, 2020, all over the country bring this emission standards.
Okay.
And also, I think we need to quickly, replace all the old vehicles.
Okay,
I think those are very critical, actually.
Okay, Anumita Roy, nobody seems to be saying that, diesel is good and these cars should be kept. Everyone's giving you different versions of what needs to be done to improve the quality of diesel vehicles on the road. But there is an argument by environmentalists who say all diesel vehicles of all kinds should be banned. Diesel is a carcinogen at the end of the day.
Absolutely. There are very serious health concerns around diesel emissions, especially at the level of technology and fuel that we produce today. WHO has very clearly classified diesel emissions as class 1 carcinogen, putting it in the same bracket as tobacco smoking for its strong link with lung cancer. And along with that, there are a whole lot of other health impacts that we know about diesel. Now, today, it was when we were in the court, it was appalling to see the multinational companies coming and pleading here that the current level of Bharat Stage 4 technology that they produce in India is clean, when they know that in other parts of the world this is 10 years behind and they are meeting much better and clean diesel standards in the markets of Europe, in US, in Japan and other parts of the world. And therefore to come and say that what they're producing here is clean, and I'm glad that the Chief Justice said very clearly that we need polluter pay principle to be applied on diesel vehicles so that people, when they're going to buy a diesel car, are conscious that they're buying a polluting device. I think that's a very powerful message that has come out today.
So, but are you saying that whether it's BS4 that is 10 years behind what we're using or what is being used currently in Europe, in any case diesel is bad? It should be no diesel at all?
So we
is that the
certainly have
position?
to meet a clean diesel benchmark. Today we know that Europe is much better than where we are today. Only at the level of Euro 6 that Europe is producing today, you begin to address the diesel emissions, but US is even tighter than European standards.
Sambit Patra, let me bring you in here, because ultimately the production, the manufacture, the supply, the pricing of oil, petroleum, diesel products is all done by the center. Now, you know, you have the environmentalists making a position that you need to bring your diesel up to speed. Whatever is being used in the market is not good enough. Pinaki Mishra is talking about adulteration as well of existing so-called green diesel that's available in the market. There is no such thing clearly as green diesel. So is it the centre's responsibility then to do something about diesel production and diesel supply? And also, you know, because the manufacturing, the diesel manufacturers, the car manufacturers are a very large luxury segment in this country. How do you deal with that?
No, in fact, I would say that we all are on the same page. The Supreme Court, the government, the environmentalist. We all are on the same page, because if we would go back to what the government had wanted, Mr. Nitin Gadkari and his department had sent letters to this effect as to what the Supreme Court is saying today to almost all the manufacturers, that please, change the whole system. And if you would look into Mr. Gadkari's way of functioning, he has been talking of biodiesel, he has been talking of biofuel, he has been talking of hybrid fuel and electricity as alternate methods of fuel since long, and he is in fact planning, he has been suggesting that this BS4 should go to BS6, skipping the BS5.
So, Samit,
so the government
responsibility is that? Who's going to do it?
Surely we'll do it. We will do it. But as Pinky Anand was rightly pointing out, the logistics also have to be worked out. If a lot many diesel cars have to be removed from the streets overnight, naturally things have to be done in a way which does not affect the large populace. So certainly the government is going to take all these measures, but in a way which would be quick enough so that the pollution is not more damaging, but slow enough to give people of the country the kind of respite that they need.
Okay, Adarsh Shastri, I want to ask you, you know, the fact is everybody is monitoring pollution right now on a daily basis pretty much. Today, for example, in spite of the fact that we're in the middle, we're on day 5 or 6 of this odd and even scheme already, the pollution levels in Delhi haven't really improved significantly. There has been no significant improvement. Everybody is talking, the environmentalists are talking about it, the car manufacturers are talking about it, the car dealers are talking about it, that it is not just about diesel vehicles, it's not just about getting the number of cars off the road on a particular day. You need to tackle two-wheelers, you need to tackle trucks, you need to figure out, you know, other pollutants, construction dust, road dust. What's happening on those fronts?
Absolutely, I agree with you. There has to be a comprehensive 360-degree approach to the problem of pollution. The question is, how do you prioritize? And in that order, we felt that we need to get at least the large number of cars off the roads. And I think the level of pollution that we are seeing is possibly also a result of unfavorable weather. But at the same time, you know, we are noticing, we are seeing for ourselves the ease in travel, which is also an element of pollution which is happening. At the same time, Arvind has already said that in the next phase, we would possibly look at not having, these kind of so many exceptions in place. Apart from that, other things have been put in place. We will be vacuuming the roads to control dust. There are very stringent zero tolerance norms being put in place for construction and realty companies. There is a huge amount of discussion and policy planning going on to regulate the entire transport, the trucks which come into Delhi, they are allowed to come in after 11 p.m. But should there be a quicker way to find alternative ways for them to bypass Delhi? What can the government of Delhi do for that? We are willing to dialogue with the governments of Punjab, Haryana and UP to fast track that effort. So it has to be a comprehensive effort, but I think this is a great big beginning. A big step, but a long way to go. Absolutely.
Okay, Pinaki Mishra, if I can ask you the same question in a sense, you know, there have been charges made against this odd and even scheme and the Aam Aadmi Party on this particular situation, that this is an easy quick fix solution. Getting the cars, half the cars on the road for 15 days is going to make some kind of difference at the end of the day, but the larger problem is not being tackled. I mean, I think pollution is something most political parties are agreed upon, that's an issue that should not be politicized. We have the courts getting involved, the National Green Tribunal. Fundamentally, one link in the chain that's difficult to crack is the mindset of the consumer in this country. How does everyone work around that?
Yeah, you're right. You know, I think, of course, the mindset of the consumer is a factor, but I think it's just so many systemic problems that have, you know, just engendered and grown over the years. That's the big problem here. You know, your pollution certificates are so dodgy. They're obtained, you know, completely under the table. Any day that you drive on the roads, you see vehicles which are emitting foul smoke, and they're being allowed to run freely on the roads. I mean, every fifth, sixth vehicle you find is really rampantly polluting. And obviously there's no police force here. There are no other check forces which are able to keep these vehicles off the roads.
Yeah.
But I have a suggestion. I think this is being done in many parts of the world. I think we should involve the private sector very, very aggressively as part of their CSR policy to go in for greening of cities. Give them large zones, let them maintain the greening of these zones, and they do a wonderful job. Let me tell you, if you go to these small towns, you see these industrial houses which are keeping these lots of long expanses of roads, parks at their expense. Because they have the financial wherewithal,
right.
And if you make it part of their CSR, that look, you go in for greening, give them those the little exemptions that would make them feel incentivized. I think you have to be more innovative.
Okay,
the government cannot go in for greening, and greening is what you need.
You need to,
and plus, of course, you need to stop this rampaged digging that goes on all over this country. That every 5 days somebody will come and dig up the same stretch of the road for their own little issue.
And
that's something that has to stop.
Right.
And that's, everywhere in LBZ you find large mounds of dirt.
Right, we're out of time. Pinaki Mishra, Anumitra Roy Chaudhary, Adarsh Shastri and Abdul Majid, thanks very much for joining me on the show. I think if nothing else, whether it impacts pollution figures or not, what this 15-day exercise certainly seems to have done is force all of us to come up with some kind of solutions and find some ways of constructive mechanisms to actually tackle a problem that we are all facing. We'll leave it at that, but thank you all for joining me on this debate.